everybody, it's Robert again, and today we are joined by my friend Ramon from Moon Scarab Tarot. Ramon, this is the first time we've actually talked face to face. I'm excited about it. I have a lot of
Thank
questions
you.
for you. Um,
Yes, thank you for having me here.
I'm
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 excited
glad
to chat with you.
I'm glad you're here. I just saw you doing live um, on another channel, and you probably literally had time to run to the bathroom, run a comb through your head. That's it. So I appreciate it more than you realize.
Thank you.
Uh, the first thing I want to do is tell everybody about you. Um, how did you? The question I'm going to ask are going to be following the Fool's journey.
Mhm.
So the first card, obviously, is the Fool. And how did it all start? Where did your spiritual path start?
Yeah, so I was raised in a household of organized religion, uh, Christian household, specifically Protestant. And uh, ever since I was a child, ever since I had a sense of memory, I was always involved in the church. So I always had that spiritual foundation. Um, I was very active in the church, and I was actually I was a big believer in the spiritual realm. I was very active in the church. I was a Sunday school teacher. So the spirituality always had a big part in my life. And but over the years, I started seeing that that spiritual path that I was embracing didn't fit my worldview. My worldview started to change, and it got to the point that I parted ways with the church. And for many years, I was without, any type of spiritual foundation. Um, I didn't want anything to do actually with spirituality. And I was 20 years old. And over the years, I started noticing that there was something missing in my life. Um, why? Because when you have a spiritual foundation, that is part of your world, of who you are. We're not just body. We're also there's a spiritual component, ethereal component to us that, as the body, it also needs to be nurtured. And over the years, I started falling into, I don't know, a lot of depression. A lot of things didn't make sense to me. I didn't find purpose in what I was doing. And looking in hindsight, I realized that it was a lack of spiritual nurturing that I was going through. Many years after that, I was very receptive to trying to find another spiritual path that I can go through that will fulfill me. And I became sort of like a spiritual shopper, right? I
Right.
tried, other religious philosophies, like, I was in Christianity already, but I tried Islam, I tried Judaism, a lot of different philosophies. And the last one that I was exploring was Jainism. And Jainism resonated a lot with me because
I'm sorry. Can you spell
they,
that for me? Because
yeah, Jainism is spelled Jainism. Jainism. And it's a very, very ancient spiritual philosophy based in India. And the foundation of that philosophy is respect to all forms of life. They're very ascetic, they're very conscientious of all living things around them. Like, to the point that they don't pluck fruits from trees. They wait till it falls because they don't want to harm or cause pain to the
disrupt
plants.
the course of life.
Yes, yes, definitely. There's certain vegetables that they don't eat, like, for example, carrots, because they don't want to disturb all those all those organisms that live in the ground that surrounds that vegetable.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it's amazing and it's beautiful. But I knew that it was that was a way of life that I was never be able gonna be able to meet in my current circumstances. So one day I was watching video on Jainism, actually on YouTube, and a video came after that talking about different spiritual paths. And I was watching the video and tarot came up. And I know about tarot already. I mean,
You
what
knew tarot
everybody
from the
knows.
perspective of the church dogma.
Yes, yes. And also like the just like the everyday person, it's a set of cards used for fortune telling, divination, and I knew nothing about it except for the images, those archetypes that we all fear that when we don't know about tarot, like death or the devil, the
Tower.
hangman. And yeah, so I started watching videos on tarot and I got like so interested in it. Um that I said to myself, okay, I'm gonna explore this because there might be something here. That same day I went online and I was trying to find a tarot deck that I could start working with and starting learning about. And there were so many things out there, so many different types of decks that I didn't know where to start. So I said, okay, so I'll figure it out. I'll try another day. The very next day, I was at work, and uh, I was at my office, and I went to dispose of some papers at a recycle bin. And when I went to toss those documents in that bin, I saw a card of the magician, and I spent like a whole
My
minute
favorites.
looking. Yes, looking at the bin. I was like, what's going on? So I pulled the card, and right behind it was the fool. It's, of course, in tarot first comes the fool, and then the magician, and so on. And I started pulling cards. So then the high priestess was behind it, and the empress, and the emperor. And it was like a magic trick. Like every time I pulled a card, there was another card behind it. And I was like, I couldn't figure out, and to this day, it still amazes me that that happened. The very next day that I said to myself, and I, in an indirect way, maybe to the universe, I want to start learning about this. A tarot deck came to me, and from watching the video, I knew that there were 78 cards. So I said to myself, if all 78 cards are here, this is going to be my deck. And all 78 cards were there, including the box
Wow.
and everything.
Dude.
Yeah, and it was crazy, and that was the point that I started in my journey learning about tarot. And I still have that deck actually,
Which
but that
kind of deck was it?
it's a Rider Waite Smith deck, just a regular one, which is actually perfect, because when I was searching for a tarot deck, I was between that or Marseille, and I'm glad it was the RWS because I feel it's easier to learn tarot using a deck that has images on all 78 cards. I feel that you can better understand the meaning of six of swords with an image than just having six swords. You know, and from that point, I started learning everything I could about tarot. You can never say I know everything there is to know about tarot because
Yeah,
tarot is we're always going to be students of
I've been
tarot.
studying tarot off and on for the better part of 40 years. And it's
Wow.
only been in the past, well, since 16. In 2016, I had an
Hmm.
operation and I couldn't do the work I used to do. I was a hairstylist and a nail tech. Um,
Okay.
I was so depressed that I just
Hmm.
didn't know what to do. I was home all the time. That wasn't me. I'm a Leo. I'm out there. My second job was a karaoke host. Come on, I was meant to
Oh,
be
really?
people.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do, so I just started playing with my cards again and remembered how vital your spirituality should be in your life.
Hmm. It's part of who we are, and just like with the physical body, it also needs to be nurtured. And there's so many ways to nurture it. There's so many paths. And that's one of the things that I like about tarot and that fulfilled me. Tarot and then divination in general. But with tarot is that it's a it's a spiritual support that fits to me, and it fits in different ways to different people, and it speaks in different forms, and I don't know, it's like everything that this uh, spiritual uh, tool has, it adapts to everyone. Why? Because it's a reflection of who we are. That's why I say you, you can't say you know everything about tarot, because tarot is constantly evolving. Why? Because it's a mirror of humanity. It's like, for example, if we look at tarot 40 years ago, a lot of the cards, many cards will say, "Oh, this night is a blonde man who's coming your way,"
That's exactly
or
what it was.
yeah, or this romantic person coming to you. And we don't talk anymore about genders in tarot. We talk about energies. And we come to the point that we can accept that a man can embody uh, one of the queens, for example,
Earth energy,
or,
water
you
energy,
know, uh huh. Because it's all about energies. We all have male and female energies in us. That's what balance everything in the universe does. That's what balances everything. So, and that our concept as a society in terms of gender has changed, and that is reflected in the cards as well. We don't talk about genders in the card. We talk about energies. So, and as our mindset in society changes or progresses, that'll be reflected in the cards as well. So there's
you
always going to be a learning opportunity, something new to see in tarot.
you're not just whistling Dixie. I had somebody in the tarot group I work with referred to me as a tarot master, and I shut that shit down real quick. It's like, no.
Mhm.
It's like, no, and I had to explain to them why I'm not
Uh-huh.
called that, and they're like, wow, all that stuff is in tarot. I'm like, yes, there's layers and layers and layers and layers.
There's
Currently, my
so much.
course of action is I'm studying the Thoth tarot right now, and my brain is
Hmm.
going through overload. Um,
So am I. I'm learning I'm studying the thoughts too.
oh,
And
great minds.
yeah, yeah. And it's so interesting.
It really is.
It is. It
The
is.
way the paths fit between the spheres is
Mhm.
very cool. Now, when you first started reading professionally, how did that come about?
So I remember that the first time I read for someone was at a Halloween party. um, and it came so fluid, to be honest. And it wasn't because I had, uh, certain knowledge of tarot, because I didn't refer to technical things like, zodiac correspondences or anything like that. It was, it just came so fluent, and the girl that I was reading for, she was very touched by the message. And it was that special connection with the cards in a way that the message just came through. Um, yeah, and it's one thing that's very interesting is that I have my best friend who I know from high school. We both went through similar paths in terms of our departure with church. We were in in church during the same time period. We parted ways in the same time period. The only difference was that he started to explore other forms of religious philosophies, whereas I didn't want anything to do with it. And
Sounds like he
when
looked
I,
externally and you turned inward.
yeah, pretty much. And when I started learning tarot, he was the person to go for me to be able to learn a little bit more about it. And he said to me, I don't read using keywords. I read intuitively through the images,
What
and
happened to me? Hold on.
y-
Hold on. I apologize.
no, don't worry.
What the hell did I do? Oh, there it is. I don't know why I did that. Oh, because I moved my notebook to write something down and it pulled the cord out. Ugh, me. So you were saying,
Yeah, so to me, that was, I couldn't believe there was such a thing, and now I can see a lot of people read intuitively. And even though during that reading that I did with that girl, I knew the answers, like intuitively, the answers, the message was there in the cards. And from there on, I started reading for other people, and uh, then I decided to do a channel, and my channel is more about, trying to share knowledge of different ways to look at tarot.
let's talk about your
And
channel for a second, Mister,
yeah,
because during the past year, especially your channel, I have
yeah,
referred to so many people who are
really,
starting out with tarot. Your methods of relaying the card information is just chef's kiss. I love it. I love the
thank you very much.
video work that you do with it, the editing and everything. It's just, and if anybody has not seen the Moon Scarab channel, please go check it. The only other channel I watch more than yours, I'll be honest with you, there's two others that
Uh-huh.
I love watching. Windows to the Soul, because I like the astrology she does, and
Hmm.
Chris Butler, um,
Oh,
Sacred.
Chris.
And
Yes.
have you had a chance
Chris
to talk
Butler
with
is
him
a,
yet?
no, no, I've seen him in other lives, and I have three of his decks.
I just got the last one.
Yes.
I
The
have the
the Hecate.
no, that was the second to last one. I have
Uh,
um the Hecate deck, the Lenormand deck, the
hmm
Sun
the
Tarot,
Healing Light.
Healing Light, Quantum Tarot.
Uh,
I think
uh-huh.
that's of them. But if he puts out another one, I'm on it. Like because
Yeah,
I
I
just
have the, yeah, the decks are amazing. I have the Healing Light Tarot. I have the Healing Light Lenormand. I have the Quantum Tarot, and
mhm.
I got the Hecate a few days ago. I love it. I just love the imagery, and it speaks to me. And yeah, thank you very much about the channel. I'm not the type of person who is looking just for subscribers.
Right.
I want the channel to be one, uh, of a point of information for people who are starting to learn about tarot and other forms of divination. Why? Because when I started in tarot, it was very confusing to me because the booklet on tarot decks has, s- certain meanings for the cards. Other people had their different takes, and then you have the astrology correspondences and numerology, and
Hebrew
it's,
letters.
yeah, yeah, it's, there's so much information that, what I started compiling everything that I researched and learned, and try to put it together in a way that it was easier for people to understand and refer to. And one of my popular, I started my channel maybe like less than a year and a half ago, and right now it has like 5,200 subscribers. And that one video, the meaning of all 78 cards, has like over 70,000 views. in
40 of
just a
them are
few
mine,
months.
40,000 of them are mine. Yeah. I just love
Thank you.
watching it. I put it on in my headset and I just walk around the house, because that's
Yeah,
my
thank you. I'm
relaxation.
honored.
Girl.
I'm
Um,
honored. Yeah.
where
And
do you
it's yeah, so it's what I want to do is share information for people who are starting in divination and be able to be one of many resources out there because everybody has their own take and just provide information as best as I can.
it's dangerous for young people, in my opinion, getting into it because as soon as they open their mouth and say they want to explore something, somebody else will shut them down and they're too young
Hmm.
to know how to stand up for themselves or
Hmm.
to follow through with that. And that breaks my heart. I was like that. I have been a witch since my teenage years. My mom was a witch. But I married into a very Christian family.
Hmm.
So everything got put away because they were over the house a lot. And then gradually I just separated from my spirituality more and more and more. And it took a brain surgery to bring me back to my path. And since that's happened, everything has just been golden roses. Where do you um, believe your insight comes from? This is a question I
My
ask first point in any of my tarot classes. Where do you believe your insight is going to be coming from? From God, from angels, from your spirit ancestors, from who?
um
For me, it's a combination.
it's I believe it comes from a lot of different sources, you know. It's from your connection with the higher realm, doesn't matter what form or uh, entities compose it. It's a combination of your higher power, your own intuition, the energies that surround you. All those things mixed together is where I get a lot of my messages and guidance through my path. Because I believe a lot in intuition. Why? Because I intuition is such a powerful thing because it's that knowledge that you have that wasn't learned, and that definitely
You just said that in the
comes
last video you were in. I was watching. I
I
was like, "Oh,
did,
I like that."
and it's true. I so much believe in that. um and I was sharing an example with someone a few months ago. I was with that best friend that I was telling you about. His name is Richard. We went to a shopping center, and I like to park in certain spots. Like, I feel like the energy of the parking spot that I want to park at. Sometimes there's a much closer space, but I don't feel that's the right uh place to stop at. So this one day we were going to a store, and there was a parking spot very close, and I said, I don't feel like parking there. I want to park a little bit further ahead. And he couldn't understand that. It's a safe space. I said, no, 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 I don't feel this is the right place. And when we came out of the store, there was a car who parked in that same space, and it got bumped by a car that was coming in. And how did I know that? I did not know. It was my intuition. It's that knowledge that I acquired at that moment without learning about it, you know?
And how long did it
And
take you to trust your intuition?
um uh, I don't know, because intuition is all, I think it's part of the human experience. We all talk about, this voice told me, or I felt like this was the best way to go. I think it's innate. It's part of the human experience. Um I don't know. But over the years, with as you go through life, and you see the world in a different way. You're much more receptive to trust in your intuition as you go through experiences in life that validate that, you know, that knowledge that your intuition provides you is, um it's something to be trusted. Is that over time you start to develop validity to it.
I think I'm lucky because I grew up in a family that was open to, um, for most of my family, I'll say supernatural, but for my mom, she was Wiccan. She was a Dianic witch. Um,
Mm.
Now she's Catholic. She went backwards, but the family I have, a lot of them have their own gifts, and I see them using it, and then
Mhm.
they act like nothing happened and they'll ignore it and deny everything. Do you have other people in your family, in your bloodline, that are strong
In terms of,
of spirituality as far as maybe getting visions or
oh
insight?
yeah. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. My father, for example. I mean, my father, my mother, it's grandparents. It's they like, for example, my dad is one who gets a lot of information in dreams.
Mm.
He has this gift that things that happen, he has seen it before through dreams, and I had an uncle who was very strong in terms of premonition. He was able to tell you, this is going to happen, and they used to call him Saint Mouth because
Uh,
everything he said that uh, it was like information that he will get about outcomes that will end up being true. And throughout my family, they were able to perceive when someone was gonna die. I don't know, a lot of like crazy things. And I think it's, part of it, there's certain people who are more receptive to it, but I don't think you need to have like any special skills. I think us humans, that is something that we can tap to. The problem is how open are we to accept these spiritual gifts, those connections that we all are able to establish. We all have the capability to to tap into the divine realm. H- But, most of the time we block ourselves to be able to access that.
I believe we've been conditioned throughout our lives
Yeah.
to ignore
Mhm.
it. And it's not until later in life that a lot of people say, oh, wait a minute, I should have done it this way and go back and try to
Mhm.
catch up. Um, and I encourage everybody to explore their spirituality every chance they get. Um, have you ever faced any kind of backlash, hardcore backlash from anybody?
Honestly, no. No, not really. Except not really backlash, but like for example, my partner, he he's a cancer and he's very in touch with his emotions, but um he doesn't, how should I put it? He's not interested in anything related to divination, and I don't think he's ever even seen my channel. I don't think he even knows the name of my
You know
channel.
what? I don't think my husband seen my channel either. We've been together 24 years. It's
Yeah.
and he's a Capricorn. He's a true Capricorn.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
Only way he
Yeah.
could see and feel. But then he turns around and asks my opinion on my intuition on something. Slips it in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
I totally get it. Um, and it's I kind of, when we talk, when I tell him, look, I'm gonna do a live, or I'm doing this, and he's like, that again, or he's sort of like makes this gesture like, "Oh, please." And I kind of understand it because I was the same way with my best friend. He used to talk to me. I remember the first time I heard about Hecate was through him, and he used to talk to me about Hecate all the time, and I was like, "Oh, please, I don't want to hear anymore," or "I'm not interested in your witchy stuff."
Your witchy
You
stuff.
know, not knowing that down the road that was a
Gonna hit
path
you
that I
right in
was
the
gonna
face.
go. Yes, yes. And like that, a lot of things in life, I had a friend. I've been a vegetarian for 15 years. It's gonna be 16 years now. I used to have a friend and she was a vegetarian, and I used to mock her. I used to call her a tree hugger. I used to tell her how tasty meat is, not knowing that I was gonna become a vegetarian myself over the years.
The gods have a sense of
And
humor.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, I haven't faced like any type of backlash. I think it's maybe people around me who it's they just don't understand how powerful uh, you know divination is, and it's not just the cards because it's just paper and ink, but it's the connection that we make with with higher realms through these tools.
Speaking of higher realms, who would you say, looking back on your path, has been the most influential teacher that you've
Spiritually.
spiritually?
Hmm. That's a hard question because a lot of my spirituality has been building blocks from a lot of different sources. Definitely church, the Christianity, because that's was my first experience, and I went through a lot of really spiritual experiences in the time that I was in church. So that phase of my life, that was like the foundation to be able to be receptive to spirituality. And then over the years, my grandmother, um, she she was the type of person who used to read books that at the time I wouldn't understand. One of them I remember was Saint Germain and the Violet Flame, and she used to talk to me about you know other religious philosophies that were not necessarily Christianity. I had a teacher in high school that used to talk to me about Buddha, and I was like a very devoted Christian. And at the time, I was like, no, the Bible is the truth, Christianity. And he told me one day, I know later in the future, many years from now, you're going to see and understand what I'm telling you. And he was so right. And it's everyday experiences too. I try to find the spiritual lesson um in everything. So it's a combination of a lot of different things, not one specific, but a lot of small building blocks that have created this edification. And it's not complete.
Oh,
It's a work in progress, and
isn't
I know
that
there's more.
frustrating?
I
It
know.
annoys me sometimes. I'm like, come on already.
I
I,
feel that I'm whole. I
I
have everything that I know. No, and that's
I'm
not true.
spiritually advanced. God damn it.
Hmm.
The next question I have for you deals with the chariot. What drives you?
What drives me?
What drives you? Do
What
education on your YouTube channel. You write poetry. You're an artist. Um, yes, I've seen your videos, my friend, and you're very good. So, what
Thank you.
drives you? What gets you through the day?
Um, it's always that quest of knowledge, um, eh, but in a way, not only to apply it to my life, but to be able to share with other people. Share it in my own way. Through my videos, divination tools that I create. It's always I feel that I have a sense of that I have a responsibility to be able to learn and share that with as many people as possible. And that was the purpose of the channel. That's why with my videos I try to be as careful and provide uh, a very quality experience, but not just visually, but also in terms of information. Yeah, what drives me,
Far
it's
as
it's a sense of
information goes,
responsibility.
yours is probably the best channel I've come across um, for a complete
Thank
information
you, thank you.
card.
Yeah, I do a lot of research because I want to be accurate in what I say, and pairing it with video editing to be able to not just through words but also visually aid the information that I'm trying to convey.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, Pride isn't something that people should have, but I still am proud of a lot of my accomplishments. What would you say is
Mm-hmm.
the one accomplishment that you are most proud of? And it doesn't have to be spiritually.
Accomplishment. Mm, that's a very good question. I'm actually I'm proud of the channel. I'm proud of that one video of that I was telling you about, the 78 card, the meaning of all 78 cards.
That's my
Um,
favorite.
Thank you. It took me a lot of months to put together. You know, uh, Getting the information, trying to organizing it, the video editing, the visuals. I'm very proud of it because I feel that it it's going to be that first video that a lot of people will see and help them feel encouraged to explore this tool. Why? Because it's gonna bring a lot of spiritual healing, knowledge, understanding, and I know that what comes out of it is gonna be positive to be able to perpetuate uh, the wonderful tool that tarot is.
It really is an awesome
Yeah,
tool.
thank
Um,
you.
since life is constantly evolving, where do you see yourself in 10 years, say?
10 years, wow, and that's a
Give
very
you
deep
room to grow.
question. Um, I want to be able to have more time to share more knowledge about divination. Because I started with tarot, but then from there I branched it out to other forms of cartomancy, dice divination, tasseomancy, and many other ones that I haven't shared on my channel yet. I want to be able to get to the point that I'm able to grow the channel and reach a lot of other people. Um, Possibly create my own decks. I've done a couple of decks just for private use, for personal use, but I
Why
want to be
haven't you
able
had
to.
anything? Have you attempted to have anything published?
Um, no, not yet, not yet. I've done a couple of decks just for personal use, and all the divination tools that I have um are just for like I said, personal use. But maybe in the future, I would love to have my own deck. Um, and I'm already starting to think, which way I want to go. I would love to have a deck that can integrate tarot, Lenormand, Oracle,
You
playing
know, it's funny you
cards,
should say that
astrology.
because I've been practicing a spread using the Healing Light Lenormand because they're larger cards,
Hmm.
laying them out in the 36 and then on top of those with tarot cards.
Hmm.
And I haven't gotten it down yet, but I'm working on it. I'm
Yeah,
working.
it's always a work in progress. 10 years ago, I didn't know that I was going to be here doing this. Whichever path life takes me, I hope it's one that I'm able to have a positive impact on other people's lives, and that I'm happy about it. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to ask this question. We're up to the
Shoot it.
hangman, my friend.
Mm.
Uh, what illusions or dreams did you have? Okay. Have you ever had to give up on any of your dreams? Or have you ever had your illusions shattered?
Mm. Um, yeah, many times in my life. As a lot of times it's not shattered as, being a victim to someone shatter my dreams. A lot of times I've shattered my own views, things that I wanted that I realize it's it's not what was the best for me. At the
Right.
time, you know, you you see yourself going in one direction in life, but then you see that, over time with life experiences, wisdom, it takes you to a different direction. Yeah, I mean, it's something that it's not just in the past, in the present, every time we see a new perspective on life, we shatter and discard those things that no longer serve us. Yeah.
You I don't know why I wrote these out of order, but I did. So we're just gonna go with this. One of the reasons that I do these videos is to help change the way people view tarot and divination.
Hmm.
But the other part is to leave something behind. I don't have the greatest health, and I want to make sure that people understand where I was coming from and don't try to assign their own beliefs into what I was thinking. You know,
Hmm.
I don't want somebody to come along after I'm gone and say, "Oh no, he loved to do this and that." No, I didn't. You know,
Right.
look, I made a video. Look,
Hmm.
that's what I want. Okay. Um,
And that totally resonates with me. That's also, part of the reason that I do these videos, share the knowledge, but also leave something behind for people, something positive,
yes.
something of use, because tarot is always going to be around. It's how is it going to evolve? We don't know, but it's always going to be there.
With the release of the new tarot movie, every client I've had in the past week has asked me, "Have you seen the tarot movie yet?" Yeah, I went to see it just so that people stop asking me.
Uh-huh. What do you think
There's
about
a
it?
I mm, it's not
Eh.
going to win any awards and it's not factual, but it's good for jump
Uh-huh.
scares. It's on my Halloween list.
Yeah.
What what preconceived notions do you feel you're constantly coming up against when it comes to tarot?
Preconceived notions. That it just the tarot is just fortune telling, and fortune telling. The word fortune telling has that connotation of, I don't know, fate. I don't believe s- there is such a thing as fate. You know, I believe that tarot and the way I use it is sort of like a thermometer, to measure the temperature of the energies at the moment. But we have free will. There's a lot of things interacting in terms of our energy, our decisions that could change the course of our path. It's like when you put a GPS to go to the supermarket, right? That is your destiny, your destination, but it's not necessarily the place you're going to end at. It gives you a roadmap, a guide, but you are you make the decisions in which way you want to turn. You can end up at the same place that you wanted to go to, the same destination through different paths, you know. And that's how that's one of the misconceptions and that a lot of people have, that divination and fortune telling, which I personally don't like that word, is, it's telling your future, but your future has can have a lot of different outcomes. It's sort of like a snapshot of the energies. It can change at any moment.
Exactly. I tell people I help my clients understand existing cycles so that they
Hmm.
have a general idea of how things will progress if things don't change. And
Hmm.
my whole purpose is to help people heal and bring clarity into their lives. If I can't do that during a reading, then it's pretty pointless to me. Like you say, I'm not in it to make a buck. I'm retired. I really don't have to work that much. Um,
Hmm.
I like it. I like helping people. I like making myself available. And God, I hope I'm doing the right thing. Right?
No, no, I completely understand. I started participating more in lives. It's a very format that just reading for someone. I the first live program that I was doing readings was maybe about a month and a half ago. And I'm telling you, the after that show, I was drained completely because it's totally different going back to back, trying to do readings. And,
Especially remote.
you know, oh yeah, especially Ramon, it's a totally different experience. But, at the end, I felt really good because I felt that I was able to bring hope and direction to people who needed it at that moment.
Well,
I don't try to sugarcoat it, but it's with respect and empathy, and always uh, trying to direct it towards a positive outcome.
yeah.
But it's very filling to me emotionally.
Speaking on that, we're up to temperance. Um, since I associate temperance with healing, how best can a client receive healing in a session with you?
How the best? I think that us as readers, or you know guides to people who have inquiries, we have a responsibility to guide any messages that we convey towards positivity. That doesn't mean, like I said before, trying to mask the message by sugarcoating or trying to please the person, but in a spirit of responsibility, it's bringing the whole purpose is to bring growth to that person who needs that help from us, that guidance,
I'll
definitely.
admit, I start off my tarot sessions 98% of the time very professional, very caring, very, I'm here for you. But with certain clients, about halfway through, I turn into Whoopi Goldberg. You a danger girl. And then
Hmm.
they're on, it's a different story.
Hmm.
And it's just
And
when we start feeding off our clients' energy and getting in that zone, I don't know, that's the sweet spot to me. I like connecting with my clients that way. It really
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's all about, honesty, but with good intention, always with respect. And people appreciate that.
and people will know if you're jacking them around
Hmm.
too, if you don't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to. And they'll I've had clients tell me, just spit it out. Say
Yep.
what you need to say. And then I have to tell them, all right, I'm saying that you screwed around and you did something
Uh-huh.
wrong. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I did.
They're
Uh,
expecting it too.
yeah, I think it's part of their healing to be called on it.
Hmm.
Um, ooh, we just scanned right through those. Second, have in all honesty, I have to say that I have an addictive nature. When I was young, I was really into substance abuse. I was in the LA gay lifestyle.
Hmm.
Um, Sadly, now I'm addicted to buying tarot decks. I know I'm part of a support group. I've got 90% of the decks that I want on my wish list. Have you, what's the one deck you can't live without?
Uh, Honestly, I mean, that's a hard question.
I know, that's why I asked it.
It's, well, the RWS, definitely. That for me is the foundation of my experience of my journey in tarot. Doesn't matter how many fancy decks there is around, how many interpretations. To me, the RWS is the one that if I have to leave my whole collection, I will always would like to have with me. Definitely. Now, after that, I love all the decks from Claire Goodchild. I'm
Mm.
a total fan of, you know her, right? Do you know her? Yeah, she has all of her decks explore uh, uh that imagery of antique anatomy, skeletons, skulls, different types of bones. I
I'll
love it. I
say
love it.
my go-to deck is Rider Waite Smith, but I keep 12 in, next to my station
Hmm.
in case different clients, different viewpoints, whatever.
Yeah.
The one that I really, really love if I'm not using my Rider Waite Smith is my Day of the Dead deck. And it's just I get the ancestral vibe from it and I feel
Hmm.
connected with those guides that are working with me. And I was amazed when I got it and I was like, yes, all right, let's go for it. Um, yeah, I can't stop buying decks. My husband's
I mean, it's hard. I mean, I I'm not buying as much decks anymore because you get to the point that you're like, okay, so, or at least, I got to the point that I say is, what new thing is this going to bring to my collection? It's because sometimes we buy decks and it becomes redundant. Sometimes we don't even use it. Um,
Yeah, it's been
and
pointed out to me that I give them away a lot of the time without even using them.
I mean, if you give them away, that's good. You're sharing that tool with someone. But it all comes down to buying responsibly. Everything in moderation, everything in balance. I try to keep all my the decks that I have in to have a special unique place, in terms of the artistic value, the function. I try that to avoid redundancy as much as possible. The only deck that I have in different sizes and different materials is the RWS, because for me that is like the basic foundation of tarot.
Yeah, it really is.
Hmm.
Um, what, if any, has been your most notable tower moment?
Wow. In my life, um, after like I mentioned before, after I parted ways with the church, I was for many years without like any spiritual um nurturing. I didn't have like any guardrails to guide myself spiritually, or to get that emotional support. And I felt into a state of depression when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. And I, I s- I became an alcoholic. I started having drinking problems. Um, Never with drugs. I never had that type of problem, but with drinking, it was horrible, for many years. And I I hurted a lot of people in the process, and years after I went back and I was able to mend. But there are some other people that I never got to say that I was sorry for, being mean or not appreciating them. And, it
Did
took me
you
a
have
lot of tries.
program and all that?
Yes, yes, and it took me many years to be able to overcome it. Um, it's been many years. I don't know, like maybe 20 years that I've been sober, but um, it was that moment. I faced death many times in when I was in that stage. I didn't love myself. I didn't like anybody. It was horrible, and couple of years that were wasted in a way, but I learned a lot from it. And from that point, I realized that I needed to change a lot of things in my life, and one of those things was to try to have some type of spiritual nurturing, because it's part of who we are.
People don't
And
realize one of the reasons we're so focused on our spirituality is because we've seen the other side of the road.
Mhm.
We don't want to do that anymore,
Yes.
and we don't want you to do that anymore. My husband gave me
Definitely.
a choice when we first got together because I was drinking heavily. I had already quit drugs, but I was a heavy drinker. Tequila and Budweiser, that's
Hmm.
all night long. He gave me a choice. He says, you could either drink or you could stay with me. And I went, and I had to think about it. But I said, all right, fine. I'll stop drinking. And I did.
Hmm.
And we've been together 24 years, like I say. Um,
That's fantastic. It's for me, it was a process. And uh, I had my relapse, but I realized that those moments that I felt that I had control, that I would say, all right, I think I can control my drinking. It never ended well. It
controls.
never, not even if it was a shot, then you wanted the next shot, and then from there you will
Oh,
go
I
on a
know.
binge.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
You and I
I
have
know
been
it's I
dangerous out at a bar together.
yeah. So I realized that it never ends well,
Did your
and it's
spirituality have played a major role in your recovery?
oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I don't think about alcohol anymore. It's been many years. In fact, my partner, he drinks, it
So
in
does mine.
moderation, of course. And there's alcohol here in the house, but to me it's like invisible. Like it doesn't exist anymore. Um, but it's the spirituality, at first was with that, but it's helped me, being able to manage other things, possibly uh, those negative visions that we go through in life. Being able to understand that there is always the possibility and the access to be able to find happiness, to find peace, and yeah, and hope
It's
more
weird
than
to think
anything.
we can have peace.
Yeah.
For a
You
long
know
time,
what's
I didn't think I deserved it. I'm over it.
yeah.
Deserve it now.
Yeah, totally.
Were you gonna
And
say?
what's even crazier is that since practicing divination and learning about it, my faith in the spiritual realm has grown much more than when I was in church. You know, there was always that doubt, if God existed and if the spiritual world, if there was something higher than ourselves. I always had that doubt. But since practicing divination in its many forms, my faith in the spiritual realm is is unshakable. I'm
There,
convinced. I know that that is part of our lives. That
may I
it
ask what
exists.
spirituality you represent?
Currently,
Yes.
I have a mixture of a lot of different, philosophies.
So you're very
I don't.
eclectic. Good.
Yes, yes. I have my pantheon of spiritual guides, and I don't follow the any one faith. I've over the years exploring different spiritual paths. I've taken a little bit of here and there, the good things, learned from the bad, or for what doesn't resonate with me, and incorporate it in my life. I know what I want, what I don't like, and yeah, that's been the foundation of my spiritual path.
The next question, go ahead and scratch because we've already covered it. Was the Sun card. What I've been in my relationship for almost a quarter of a century, but everybody would like to know you are taken.
Yes, I'm very much in love. My
Oh,
partner, we know each other for 29 years.
jeez, dude.
Yeah, for 29 years. And, you know, that doesn't mean that we've been for 29 years together. We
Right.
have our ruptures, our comebacks, and everything. But, he's been besides my parents, he's been the one person who's always been on my side, who's loved me unconditionally. And, he's such a beautiful, wonderful person. We have our disagreements.
Well,
We
that's called
have we're
life.
Yeah, that's life. I mean, we're so different in so many ways, but we complement each other at the same time. And I don't see myself with that's the only person that I can see in my life.
You're an
I
artist, so
can't.
you'll understand when I say this. I relate me and my partner to a painting. He gives my life structure. I give his life
Mm-hmm.
color. That's the
Yes.
way we
I
work
like
together.
that. I like that. And
And
that is
that's
exactly how I feel. Uh-huh.
it is. He keeps me in
Yeah.
check, and I make him a little more
Uh-huh.
crazy. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's working for us, and I'm glad it's working for
Mm-hmm.
you. So I still think you should put together your own deck. I really do. And
Yes, I will.
I'm waiting for the announcement that you'll be writing a book.
Yeah, down the road. The thing is, I'm very picky with tarot decks. I don't buy when I buy a tarot deck is because I forget that it's a tarot deck. It's like a collection of windows. It becomes a tool that is not physical. It speaks to me in such a way that it stops being a bunch of cards, you know. And uh, but I'm very aware of the graphic design. I'm very picky with the fonts. I'm very picky with the colors, because those are small things that can disturb the experience of a deck,
Right.
and I want to the day that I put out a tarot deck, it's something well done that can be a great spiritual tool for whoever wants to use it. And I'm very the same way I'm very picky with the decks I want, or anything that I want to get. It's the same way with the things that I want to put out. That's why I invest a lot of time in my videos. Hopefully in the future when I do my deck, it'll be something that is worthwhile.
So on your channel, this is a promise last thing I'm going to ask.
Yeah,
I've seen you use different forms of divination, from pendulums to cards to dice. Were one of my favorite. I love those dice you made. Um,
thank you.
what are your favorite forms of divination that speak to you the best?
um, to me, it's a combination of different decks, a combination of different divination tools. I love to combine tarot with dice or Lenormand with tasseomancy, or dice with Elder Futhark runes. I love combining divination tools. There's not one that specifically. I use tarot the most. Cartomancy because of the practicality of uh, having a deck with me all the time. But in terms of a spiritual tool, I love combining them. I think it adds such a depth in the message than just one tool. You know, tarot is my favorite, but I use Lenormand, I use Kipper, I use oracles, dice, pendulums, uh, uh, Elder Futhark runes, geomantic sticks, a lot of different tools. And I love making a lot of my tools, but they all speak to me in a different way. They all have their own voice, their way of conveying the message, and when you combine them, it makes it much richer.
think when I was younger, my first divination practice was fire scrying because you always have fire. You're always going to have fire near you. Um, and that morphed out in life into other things. But
You know what my first divination tool was, without even realizing that it was a divination tool, is bibliomancy. When I was
yes,
in church, and this is still a common practice in church, a lot of people, they ask God, oh God, please give me a message for the situation that I'm going to. And they just open the Bible, and there is a passage that speaks to them. That is bibliomancy without them even realizing it. And it's one that I used to practice a lot, and my dad does without even knowing that he is practicing a form of divination. I love bibliomancy. I combine bibliomancy with dice. I have this old dictionary from the 1920s, and I have a set of dice that I use for the page, the column, and the line. And when I want to connect with my higher power, I actually have a video on my channel about it. I want to get a message through bibliomancy. I combine those tools, and I get a word that speaks to me in regarding the inquiry that I have. I love bibliomancy a lot.
I gotta say, you're a pretty impressive young man, and I'm very grateful you took the time out today to talk to me. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do this again sometime. Okay.
Yes, yes, it was
Or
great talking to you. I'm very honored that you invited me, and grateful that I got to know you. And hopefully we can do this again.
stick around because I want to ask you something. All right, you guys,
Sure.
I'll see you on the next